So the invitation from the Akashic Records today is to explore the subtle grace of intentionality. They're offering us, they're inviting us to explore the hidden or subtle grace of intentionality. So, what does this mean? When we do something intentionally, there's like a myriad of benefits to that, right? There's so many ways that doing something intentionally can support us. At the very least, it provides a level of clarity, almost like just taking a moment to think about what you're going to do before you do it, and it makes the process easier. And so there's that, right? There's this clarity, there's all kinds of things. There's so many reasons to kind of, I don't know, revere, I guess, kind of put on a pedestal this like practice of intentionality, right? There's so many things that it can offer us. And yet there's like these subtle things too that we might not have even realized that being intentional can offer us. And so one of these things that the records are pointing to is when you do something intentionally, it can make the effort required to actually do the task at hand, can make the effort required feel less. It can make a process or a task feel more effortless. It can make a process a little bit more easeful when we do something intentionally. And they're saying that part of that is, it's not just the clarity, it's not that, suddenly, oh, I'm gonna do this intentionally and the task just becomes easier. That's not really what happens. It's more like whatever you're gonna do will require whatever amount of effort it will take, right? And we might have a tendency to overexert ourselves and do more than what is required. We might struggle to kind of like meet the necessary effort to complete something. And all of those expressions and relationships to effort are totally valid and honestly really relatable. I'm sure we can kind of touch into moments where we feel like it's hard to put forth the effort required to do something, and other times where it's almost like we can't help but do more than what was needed, and we might even feel a little bit tired at the end of that, of doing a little too much. And yeah, so it's like there's this spectrum of effort, or like this like spectrum of how we might approach a task and like the way that we might relate to effort. But when we're intentional, it's not that the effort required to do the thing is going to change. It just it makes the process feel a little bit more easeful, a little bit more effortless. And they're saying that part of the reason that might be the case is because intentionality at a subtle level connects us to our own desire and our own choice. So we might not realize that that's what we're doing when we're being intentional, but underneath intention is willingness, our free will and desire, our willful desire, what we want, what we choose to do with ourselves, with our energy, with our time. And that's like, that can be really powerful. It's like this subtle way of changing the way we experience something. If we're doing something out of a sense of obligation where we don't feel like we're necessarily being intentional, but we just have to do it, or we're doing something and we're not necessarily being intentional about it, it's not that the task changes. Again, it's not that the task is different or the effort required is different. It's just that the way we experience it will feel different if before we start the thing, or even in the middle of doing the process, we just take a moment to remind ourselves of our intention, that we want to be here and that we want to show up in a certain way, right? There's an intention. I want to show up to this perhaps with clarity. I want to show up to this with some grace. I want to show up to this with some playfulness. Whatever it is, I want to show up to this in a specific way. I want to be here. I want to do this. And that is such an inherently empowering thing to decide before you're going to do something, that not only am I choosing to do this, or even if it's an obligation, it's like, okay, I'm obligated to do it, but this is how I want to show up to it. If I have to do this, this is how I'm going to bring myself to it. And there's this sense of empowerment, this sense of choice, this sense of choosing and wanting in there, of even if the task at hand is not something I want to do, there might be this intention that can connect us to how we want to show up to it, even if we don't actually want to do it. So, and that subtle reconnection to our free will and our desire, our own choice, our own wanting, that can make a process, our experience of a process, feel a little bit more easeful, right? A little bit smoother, a little bit more pleasant, and less rigid, a little less forced and kind of gripping. There's almost the whole experience might digest easily. It might go down a little bit more easily if we bring some intentionality to it. So with this invitation, right, that's what the invitation is to explore the subtle gifts, the subtle grace of intentionality. And I would love for you, if you feel called to just take a moment to see if this feels true to you. The next time you're going to do something, this invitation, the way you can apply it is to just take a moment to be intentional about whatever you're going to do. How do you want to show up to it? Whether it's something you really want to do or something that you're not really looking forward to doing, how do you want to show up to it? What is your intentionality behind how you're going to approach the task at hand? And just notice, does it make a difference for you? And maybe it doesn't, but if it does, kind of notice that and perhaps enjoy whatever that subtle gift or subtle grace is that your intentionality brought to you. So that's where I'm going to leave you for today. And I'm wishing you well until next time. Namaste.